As part of the digital competence framework, you must show that you're able to independently choose the correct digital tool for a particular piece of work or a project. So sometimes it may be appropriate to use a video, sometimes it may be appropriate just to use an audio clip or a Word document. However, sometimes it is appropriate to use a presentation software, but we're going to look at in this video when exactly that is. Now, if we look here, presentation software is particularly useful for pitching ideas, so you can show images maybe of a product that you've come up with and some simple text to sort of talk around the images, and just basically any sort of visual information. So where you want to show pictures with supporting text, a presentation is probably the best piece of software for you to use. Now, if we look at an example of a presentation, as you can see here, it's just simply quite visual. There's images, which are quite large, and there's a small piece of supporting text. Now, there's also things such as video, which you can incorporate. You can incorporate buttons, which link to each of the slides in the presentation, and links in the form of text. So a presentation is quite a nice way to show things visually, but also to make it interactive so that the user can actually go to the specific piece of information that they need. So that's when you need to use a presentation software. And when you actually are given a project or an assignment, it's important that you choose the right tool for that particular task. In this video, we're going to be looking at creating a new Google Slides presentation. So how do we set one up? How do we store it and name it appropriately so that we can find it easily in the future? And we're going to have a very, very quick look at the toolbar and menus in Google Slides. So I went to Google Drive and I created a folder called Documents. What I'm going to do now is, this is some work that I'm doing for ICT, so naturally I create a new folder called ICT. Therefore, if I'm ever doing any ICT work, I go to that folder, job done. So I'm going to double click on it to go inside the folder, and I'm going to go to New and Google Slides, and it's going to create a lovely blank presentation for me to work on. Now the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name it. And this is going to be a presentation about smart homes. So I'm going to call it Smart Homes. And now that folder icon there has shown me now that it's going to be in my ICT folder. So when I refresh it, it's there, it's named appropriately. I know exactly what that file is and where it is. So that's job done. So a very, very quick glance now at the menus, because in the next few videos I'm going to be showing you how to use these tools and features. But essentially, all of your menus are here. If you want to insert something, you go to the Insert tab. If you want to format something, you go to the Format tab. If you want to arrange something, you go into, so for example, if you want to layer one object on top of another, you go to the Arrange tab. Nice and simple. Also, when you do create a new presentation, there are themes that you can choose from, which are ready-made templates, which you can click on one, you can choose it, and then it'll format your presentation in that way. Now, you can see here, this is a presentation I made about smart home technology. And firstly, the thing to get right is a simple layout and theme. So I've got the same layout and color scheme on every single slide. The buttons are always located in the same point in the presentation to make navigation simple and easy to use. A presentation is visual and there to give information, so it should contain both text and images, but it doesn't require a great deal of text. Now you can see here my presentation is made up of simple images, which are located in roughly the same position on every slide, and it's exactly the same with the text. You can see not too much text, but the text is a simple font that's easy to read. It's a big enough size that somebody with a visual impairment could read. And again, it's located in the same position on every slide. And essentially, that's all you need for a good presentation, is that there shouldn't be too much text to make it boring. The images should be located in the same place, roughly, on every slide, and they shouldn't be distorted. They shouldn't be pixelated. So That's essentially all you need to do to make a good presentation. So first of all, we're going to be looking at editing the font type, font style, and the color and size. So if I go into my presentation, I'm going to have a look at changing this text here, or formatting it. So if I highlight the text, or I can just click on the box on the outside, and that will select all of the text automatically. Now the font type is the type of font that you choose. So if I was to change this, for example, to Arial, that's how you change the type. I can change the font size, and I can also change the font style. And the font style refers to underlined, italic, bold. Those are your font styles, so the actual style of the font. So the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to be looking at color and size and highlighting text. Now, if I want to change the color, I simply click on this icon here, which is the text color, and I can choose any color that I want. This also works for highlighting as well. So if I want to highlight a specific piece of text, I can click on highlight color, and just as you would do with a highlighter on paper, I can choose a color, and it puts that behind the text. Now that's a really nice way of making your text stand out. So all we've got to look at now is line spacing and alignment. Now, line spacing just simply makes the space in between the lines bigger or smaller depending on what you want to do. And I simply click on this icon here, and at the moment it's a single line. I can change that to 1.15. I can double it. I can add any size that I want. And finally, we've got the alignment. Now, if I click on the alignment options, I can align it to the left, which it currently is. I can center align it, or I can right align it. And right aligning is particularly useful for putting the address on a letter. And I can also align where the text appears in the text box. So if my text box is this big, and I choose to align it in the center, or at the top, or at the bottom. And those are just some very simple and basic text formatting tools which you should find useful. In this video, we're going to be looking at formatting images. So first of all, we're going to be finding and inserting a transparent image from Google, and then changing the color, transparency, and the brightness of an image. So if I go to Google and I type in light bulb, which is the image that I want, if I click on an image here, I right-click, copy the image, as we normally do, and I'm going to paste it, Control-V, into here. Now I've put this bright blue background on the slide because I want you to see the white box that comes up with the image. So the white box doesn't look too good, so what I want to do is just have the image of a light bulb. I don't want the white box. So if I go back to my image search and I click on Tools, Color, and Transparent, when I click on an image of a bulb now, like this, you can see this checkered pattern in the background, which means that that's actually transparent. There's nothing there. So if I right click and copy the image now and paste that onto my slide, you can see that I've just got the picture of the bulb. So that's a nice way of just removing it without having to edit the image yourself, of getting a transparent background. So now we can do a few different things. If I click on Format Options, I can change, if I go on Adjustment, the transparency, which makes it a bit more see-through. I can change the brightness, and I can change the contrast. In this video, we're going to be looking at inserting a video from YouTube into your presentation. We're also going to have a look at how to change the start and the end time of the video so that I can cut out any unnecessary part of the video that I don't want the user to see. And I'm also going to show you how to automatically play the video in the presentation when it's in presentation mode. So firstly, what I've done is I've gone to YouTube and found a video that I want. What I do then is I'm going to highlight the URL and I'll copy it with Control-C or right-click and copy. Then I go to the slide in my presentation where I want the video to go, and I go to Insert, Video, and I'm going to choose by URL. Now you can also go on to search and type in a search for a video, but by doing it with the URL I can go onto YouTube and actually watch the videos first to find the one that I want, so I find that a bit more effective. You can also insert a video that you might have on Google Drive. So if I press select, the video appears here. Now, what people commonly do when they copy a URL is they'll copy it, go into their presentation, they will Control-V, paste it there, and what you end up with is a horrible, long, meaningless link, which doesn't look very good at all. So by inserting video by URL, you actually get the video embedded into your presentation. So I've moved the video to where I want it to be, and I can apply a border to it and change the border color if I wish. And now what I'm going to do is click on the video and go to Format Options. And what I'm going to do is change the point where my movie starts. So what I'm going to do, I want this to start at 30 seconds because before 30 seconds, the first 30 seconds in the video, is pretty meaningless. So if I start at 00:30, the video will automatically start at 30 seconds. Now the end point of the video is 3 minutes and 22 seconds long. I actually want this to end at 01:30. So the video is only going to last a minute because that's the important part that I want. And then to get it to play automatically, I simply check this box. So now when I present, you can see that it starts automatically and it starts at 32 seconds. And you can see that it's only going to go to 1:30. And that is some simple tricks for inserting a video. In this video, we're going to be looking at inserting hypertext into the presentation. Now, most people know how to do this, but most people don't do this correctly, and it can often make your presentation look unprofessional. So what we're going to be doing is adding a hyperlink to a website. So if I go to my presentation, the Ring doorbell slide, I'd actually like to add a link to the website so that the user can click on it and go to the website for further information if they need it. So I've gone to the website, which is ring.com, and what I'm going to do is, again, Control-C or right-click and copy the URL. Now, if I go to my presentation, I do Control-V. As I showed you in the previous video about inserting a video link, this is what happens, and it doesn't look very good at all. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to insert a text box right here, and I'm going to say, click here for website link. And I'm going to format it as I want it to be. And now it's ready to go. So what I do, I simply select the text, go to Insert, Link, and I'm going to paste with Control-V the link and apply it. So now, when I click Present, you can see here, click here for website link. I click it and it takes me to the website. Now that looks a lot more professional having the text like this than just simply having a random URL address. In this video, we're going to be looking at creating action buttons to make your presentation interactive. So rather than the user having to follow a linear structure to get through the presentation where they do one slide after another in a particular order, they can actually have the choice by clicking on a button which takes them to a particular slide of their choice. So if we have a look at an example here, if I go into present mode, you can see that if I want to go to slide 3, I click on 3 and it takes me to slide 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. You get the point. So let's have a look at setting that up. So first of all, we need to create our button. And what I'm going to do, if I go to slide and edit master, because if I put them on the slide master, they will be on every single slide, which just makes it easier because I don't have to copy and paste them onto all the different slides. So if I click on the master at the top and I go to insert, I'm going to choose a shape, but this could be done with text. If I go to shapes and choose a rounded rectangle, you could choose any shape that you want. I'm going to hold shift to drag out a perfect square, and I've got my button. But I'm going to label it. I'm going to call it home. Stretch that out so that it fits a little bit more. Perfect. I'm going to make it bold and center align it, change the color, and I'm ready to go. So this is now as simple as clicking on the button, go into insert, choose link. I'm going to choose the option rather than a website link, which I could paste in there. I'm going to choose to a slide in this presentation, and it's as simple as pressing the down arrow on the keyboard to choose which one you want. But obviously the home slide for me is going to be slide 1. I click on slide 1 and apply it, and that's ready to go. Then all I'd need to do is make a copy of the button. This one will be slide 2, and what I do is go to insert link, delete the one that's linked to slide 1 at the moment, choose the slide in the presentation, press the down arrow until I get to slide 2, click on it and apply. And that is as simple as making a button which the user can click on and interact with. In this video, we're going to be looking at a really important feature of Google Slides, and this applies to all of the other Google applications. It's called version history. Now, version history, let's say on a Monday you open up the document and you do your work. Then Tuesday, you open up your document and continue working. Same for Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday you open up the document and you realize that actually the version of the document that you want to work on is Tuesday's version because you've made a lot of changes, but you don't actually like the changes that you've made. So we can then return to Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday's version. It's up to you. Now the way that we do this is if I go into my presentation, now I know I've made lots of changes to this. If I go to File and Version History, I can see version history. And if I click on a particular date, so let's say 20th of February, 12:49. These are all of the changes that I made in that particular session. So if I click here, it'll show me the changes that I've made. Some of them are not so obvious. So let's have a look here on the 20th of February. What did I change? So here I've obviously edited the image and the text. And you can see here is before I actually had those particular images and text in. So let's say, for example, I want to return to this version of the document. All I need to do is restore version, and it will restore it like so. And it's back to that version from that day. Now, the reason that this is really useful is, say, for example, you were working on a big collaboration project with numerous people, lots of different people editing. Maybe, for example, somebody made a lot of changes, but they actually weren't correct. The information that they added wasn't relevant, for example. Rather than having to go through and delete those individual versions, all you'd have to do is you would have to just go back to an old version and restore it, and you can carry on from there. Now, to make this really useful, what you can do is, say, for example, I go to version history. If there's a version that I know is one that I particularly like, and that I think that maybe I may want to restore it back to that version, what I can do, I can click here on more actions and name this version. And I could call this version, just change that, version 1. So now I know that at any point, if in the future, it could be months down the line, it could be years down the line. If I want to return to version 1, all I've got to do is select it from the list. And that's really important. So it's a very important skill that's outlined on the DCF that students should be able to use. In this video, we're going to be looking at a really important part of the digital competence framework, which is collaboration. And collaboration is working together with another person or a whole group of people. And using Google Slides allows you to collaborate in real time, meaning that you can share your document with other users and you can then work on the same document on separate computers at exactly the same time. So it's really, really, really good way of collaborative working. So we're going to be looking at how to share a document. We're going to be looking at the different levels of access that you can give people that you've shared the document with, and how to access a document once it's been shared with you. So if I go into my presentation, which I want to share with Mr. Eaton, what I'm going to do is go to share, and I'm going to type in Eaton at basilakeschool.com. And what I'm going to do then, I've got a few different choices. So if I click on this option here, I can give Mr. Eaton full editing rights where he can edit the document, he can delete the document if he needs to, or I can give him commenting rights, which simply means that all he can do is look through the presentation, click on the comment button, and provide comments with information that way. Or I can just give simply viewing rights. Now, viewing rights are where all he can do is open up the document and actually look at it. He can't make any changes or add any comments whatsoever. So, if I was to press send, he will now receive a copy of my document. Well, actually, it's not a copy. It's just he receives the document. So we can work on it now at exactly the same time. So, once a document's been shared with you, how do you access it? Well, if I go to drive.google.com, or if I just click on the apps button and go to Drive, I've got my drive on the left, Team Drives, and Shared with Me. If I click on Shared with Me, any document which has been shared with me will appear up here. And that is the process of sharing a document for collaborative working.